There are those that believe in great events of tragedy, a part of you remains attached to that item. For example, a house burning down and a person dying. A part of that person remains connected to that home forever, whether it's a ghost, a spirit, or an echo. There are people that have given evidence this is the case with the Titanic also, that items attached to the Titanic have kept a residual of individuals and show them at times when people are around. In today's show, we're going to we're going to look at a few of those people that have had experiences with seeing echoes or individuals that they believe are echoes or people that were on the Titanic when she went down. I would love to know your comments. I'd love to know if you've had any experiences on for your own or have heard of any. Now guys, I would love to thank you for the support the show's getting so far. I wouldn't be able to keep doing it if it wasn't for the support of people actually listening. I would like to see if you guys can help me. Down below there is a link to my Patreon page. I am really only asking for $1 a month, and it will help me go a long way, guys. I've got a lot in the pipeline that I want to do, just without the time to be able to do it. And you guys that are watching, not watching, listening to the show will be able to help me do that. The first event that I'm going to look into is the Titanic Artifact Exhibition in the Luxor Hotel in Vegas. At the exhibition, they have a fully rebuilt grand staircase, just like it was on the Titanic, Olympic, and for a short time Britannic, before she was recommissioned as a warship. Now, there's been a lot of people that work there and people that have gone to the exhibition themselves that have reported weird things around those stairs. Particularly, people have actually come across a lady dressed all in black who casually walks around the grand staircase. They also see shadows of her and things to that extent. One of the most captivating sort of articles that I actually found on this was a photographer who works on the grand staircase, and he was there before everyone else turned up for the day, and he was getting ready, setting up his cameras and stuff like that, and he spotted a young lady, woman, and she was walking down the grand staircase. He was a bit startled to start with because the place was closed and no one was meant to be there, and it was all roped off, so no one was actually meant to be coming down the staircase. He hadn't seen anyone come in, but he just thought, well, she must be part of the exhibition. And then he approached her and asked her, would she like him to take a photo? The lady ignored him. He went back to setting up his parts and sets and whatever else you need to do and setting up the cameras, and all of a sudden the lady appeared right behind him. This lady was all in the apparel of the time, so 1912. She was wearing a black dress and it had a white collar and her hair in a very tight bun. Now, from what I'm reading there, to him it appeared she was just an ordinary person. I mean, there was no see-through, she wasn't floating. And again, he said to her, would you like to have a photo? She ignored him, and while he was looking at her, she vanished. That is just spooky. And I mean, the Luxor hotel in Las Vegas has got one of the largest collections of items taken from the wreck of the Titanic. So if there was some echoes or um, sort of images or something connected to the wreck, then this would be the place to have that sort of thing happen to you. For the next sighting or episode or theory, I guess you could put, we stay at the Las Vegas Luxor Hotel, where the Titanic Exhibition is. And this one is in regards to Frederick Fleet. Anyone that has studied the Titanic will know who this gentleman is. He was a British sailor, and he served as one of the many lookouts on the Titanic. He's the one that actually reportedly spotted the iceberg and sent warning down to the bridge. And as we know, that warning just came way too late for the ship to turn quick enough. Now, Frederick Fleet did survive sinking the Titanic, but apparently he went through quite a bit of depression, and in 1964 his wife passed away and his brother-in-law then evicted him. So Frederick Fleet, with a last resort, hung himself in the garden of the home. Now, up until 1993, his grave was actually unmarked. And then the Titanic Historical Society actually erected a headstone for him. So that's fantastic that a man that played such an instrumental part in the sinking of the Titanic, well, not the sinking, but the story of the Titanic, was actually now we recognise where his grave is. Now, witnesses have actually come forward and said that they've actually seen Frederick Fleet walking along the promenade deck in the Las Vegas exhibition. Now, I mean, from what I've read, it's multiple sightings. This could just mean that he might be feeling very guilty about what happened, that he didn't see the iceberg as quick as he thought he should have done. And there was a lot against him. I mean, he didn't have his binoculars. Everything that night was completely different than they were used to. So I don't think that Frederick Fleet has any guilt that he should feel from the sinking of the Titanic. What do you think, guys? Now, our next one is one that I don't know. I'm only bringing it up because it was actually on the Sci-Fi Channel by the Ghost Hunters. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Ghost Hunters, but it's one of those ones that I will bring up. And apparently, voices have been captured on videotape or cassette tape, and they believe it's from passengers or crew of the Titanic. And this was actually done at the Georgia Aquarium. The Georgia Aquarium houses a few artifacts from the Titanic. Now, the employees of the aquarium have claimed to have heard voices and seen shadows, and apparently they've even been touched. So there's quite a bit of paranormal activity there. Now, the ghost hunters brought in all of their fancy equipment, and apparently they captured a voice saying, "No, please wait," in what is called the iceberg room. They also apparently found several cold spots and witnessed a lot of shadowy figures in the aquarium. Now, I'm not saying that the aquarium's not haunted, because I think every artifact attached to the Titanic that's been brought to the surface, or even didn't go down with the ship, has some sort of connection with that ship. whether it's a haunting connection or whether it's a spiritual connection to it, or whether it's just an echo from the person it belonged to. I believe everything does have that type of connection. But the fact that ghost hunters, I don't know, I just don't feel at ease with that one than the other ones. Now, apparently, also there have been people that have reported when they've actually sailed over the wreck site of the Titanic. People have seen mysterious balls of light flying over the ship's area, and they are believed to be the spirits or the um, the residual of the people that actually died on the ship. Um, and apparently, on more than one occasion, submarines that have travelling along that area have actually experienced unusual radio interference, and they hear odd noises, and apparently they actually hear the SOS call when they're travelling through that area. Very, very strange. And again, I wouldn't put it past the fact that it actually could be occurring due to an echo and the tragedy that happened on that particular spot. I actually believe personally that if a strong enough event happens, that echo will remain there always. Um, I don't know how many of you would actually know or heard of the Port Arthur Massacre in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. This was a massive massacre where one man killed about 38 innocent people. Now, I've actually been down to that site since that tragedy, and you walk into that area and you feel straight away the sadness and the fear that these people would have felt. It's just incredible. So I do really think that people, things, objects can get the feeling of a connection. The next incident that I want to touch on was, let's say, a very strange occurrence, like most ghost stories, I guess. But what would happen if you saw a ghost and didn't actually realise it? Now, in 1977, a man named Leonard Bishop, who at the time was the second officer on the SS Winderhaven. Now, what happened was he gave a tour to a man who he assumed was a passenger. He was a British gentleman, and he was very softly spoken. Now, this gentleman was extremely interested in every detail of the ship, to the smallest thing, how fast she would go, where she'd been, how certain parts worked. And Lieutenant Bishop actually commented later to fellow members of the crew how unusual it was for a passenger to be that interested. He actually found the gentleman a bit strange, not unpleasant at all. Just, when you come across people that are a bit odd. Now, a few years later, it was reported that he was actually talking to friends and looking at some photos, and he actually came across a picture of Captain Edward John Smith. And he actually had a recollection of that tour. Now, Bishop actually told a friend, I know that guy. I know that guy in that picture. I gave him a tour of my boat. Now, apparently, Lieutenant Bishop's friend actually had a good laugh at this. He knew exactly who was in the picture. And he said to his friend, well, in not these exact words, but mate, you're a bit late. That gentleman is Captain Edward John Smith, and he was captain of the RMS Titanic. Now, the last thing that I would love to talk about is an object that belonged to Captain Smith. This object was a small mirror that before he went on that last voyage on the Titanic, he left on his dresser. Now, unfortunately, Captain Smith died aboard the Titanic, and his housekeeper stopped getting paid at that moment. Now, the agreement was made with Captain Smith's widow, that at the moment I just cannot remember her name, and the agreement was she could take anything of value of the wage. So she took that mirror. Now, apparently, the following year, on the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, Captain Smith's image appeared in that mirror, and the housekeeper got very distressed, very upset. Now, apparently, every year, upon the anniversary of the sinking, his image will reappear. Now, I haven't been able to find anything that says he says anything or does anything. His image just appears. Now, this object throughout the last 110 years has been passed down in her family. And the latest I read was that it was actually being put up for auction. I'm not real sure if it's been sold or not. Now, that comes again to the connection of an item. If it was one of the last things he touched before he went out on the Titanic, it may be him trying to pass energy back to that object, or trying to be noticed, I guess. What do you guys think? Is it possible that an echo or a residual or even a ghost exists connected to something that once belonged to Captain Smith? Well, guys, that's another show done and dusted. I'm really sorry that it's taken so long to get out. Life does get in the way. But as I said at the start of the show, we have got a Patreon page, and the more support I can get, guys, the more frequent I can actually get episodes and shows done. But thank you all so much for listening to the show, and coming up I'll be starting to do individual profiles on the different people on board. The first ones that I'm going to be doing is the Guarantee Group that was on board the Titanic when she went down, and then I'll be going through people like that. So eventually I will get to Ismay and Captain Smith and all the upper echelon guys, but I actually want to do which I consider the more important people in the Titanic story that we tend to forget a lot. I'm actually still writing the script at the moment for Titanic History Part 1, and I will have that out, well, the trial out for that soon. Now, both of those sections after episode 1 will be a Patreon only feature, but any of the Patreon levels will get them. So if you're Patreon level 1 and paying $1 a month, you will get access to those episodes. But okay, guys, you just have a fantastic day, night, or evening, or whatever where you are. I'd love to hear from you and your comments on the show. But thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon.